Woke up this morning with my mind set on loving me, with my mind.
And see what we do here? We help each other find our own healing.
Welcome to the Q&A Exchange.
I am your host and self-healing and happiness coach, Kuyani Denise.
And I am April Diane, self-care coach. And we are excited about today's episode. Today's episode, I'm not okay. I'm not okay and it's okay. Right? I'm not okay and it's okay. Yeah. The inspiration for today's topic actually comes from a Audible podcast that we have been listening to this week, and it's called I'll share it with you guys right now. It's with Joseph Goldstein, and I'm getting it together. It's with Joseph Goldstein, episode number 114. And it's talking about, it's kind of a piggyback from what we were talking about in the other show last week when we were talking about the big emotions, navigating big emotions. So it's kind of a follow-up of that. And it's pain and the present moment. So pain and the present moment. And so you can check it out. It's on Amazon. It's on Audible, rather. It's on Audible. And it's free. So if you have a subscription with them already, like a monthly subscription, then it's included. It's from the Be Here Now network. And these are practical methods for maintaining awareness. That's what their show about. So he's talking about, pain and the present moment, and basically how a lot of us try to use different distractions to avoid uncomfortable emotions, big emotions, and sometimes that's also, in my experience, where addiction is kind of derived from. It's the foundation of a lot of different addictions, because you're trying to distract yourself from a feeling, and trying to suppress things, push things out of your mind, all of that kind of stuff can create addictions, unhealthy addictions. So I just really loved listening to the podcast, particularly because it's true. I was able to observe in myself what happens when I experience an uncomfortable emotion or have a painful experience.
Right.
But at the heart of self-mastery is being able to make peace with uncomfortable experiences, uncomfortable emotions. We talk a lot about that in the Self-Care Mastery program and in her work healing program, self-healing program. We're talking a lot about how you have to be present for all of your emotions, because once you learn how to navigate the dark side, if you will, then you find balance. Once you learn how to navigate it in a healthy way, having healthy outlets, having healthy ways of expressing those emotions and connecting with those emotions. So I know you also listen to the podcast too, Q. So what did you think about the podcast with Joseph Goldstein?
I'm laughing because it annoyed me. No, it didn't. Honestly, like, even when you first told me the title, Pain in the Present, I was like, okay, let's get it. come get in my business, because I know that's exactly what we're doing here. And I appreciate how it wasn't scary the way that he presented it. And I'm not saying that other people probably didn't feel that way, because there was a woman who asked about the mental anguish of sitting on it, because they were sitting, and I forgot the name of the post, you would know it. And she said, what about what goes on in your mind? The mental anguish of dealing with the pain, like the sitting like this, she said, wasn't difficult, but it was the pain of what was going on in her head. He made a joke and said, that's tomorrow's lesson. He wasn't going to talk about it then. But that was the part that stood out for me. There was a part where he talked about actual physical pain and how we're so quick to try to get rid of it, whether we're taking painkillers or we go to the doctor and we're like, help us do whatever. But I called it, I'm sure I wrote down what he called it, but it was very important to me to remember what he said. Okay, relax into the pain.
Yeah.
He said, I remember having an incident a decade ago now where I was in chronic pain all the time. And I was in a prayer group and I was challenged to lay prostrate on the floor. And I knew that was an issue for me because the source of my pain exacerbated in that position. And I laid on the floor and I invited God into the pain. I said, all right, I'm usually begging for you to take the pain, but I'm asking you to meet me here. And that moment of surrender was major, because in that, I'm not saying the pain went away, but I wasn't thinking about it anymore. I was thinking about the communion that I was having with Spirit in the moment to comfort me and give me the grace to withstand it while I had this experience with him in this position that I was in. So I was no longer focused on the pain. And so he's talking about the ability to relax into the pain. And I've thought about that because that's what I do now. I don't know how much I do it with emotional situations, which is why this was so important to me. And I'm not saying that I don't, because there are times when I'm very intentional and I'm very conscious and I'm mindfully choosing how I manage something that's making me uncomfortable. But then there are still those times when I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. And a lot of it is surrounding things that, you know, have probably hurt me in the past, where I'm like, I've done this a million times. I'm not doing this anymore. But how did I handle them those million times before? Did I run away from the pain? Did I try to do something to bring me comfort right away? Or did I relax into it and sort of have communion with it so I can understand why it was present in the first place and how to manage until maybe that pain wasn't there anymore, what lesson it was bringing. And so listening to this was kind of like, it wasn't revelatory. It was kind of like a refresher. And sometimes we learn things and we go on about our lives and we forget the lessons and we have to come back to them. So that's kind of like what this was for me. Mm-hmm. And it was peaceful. It made me feel like, okay, I can do this. I can be in uncomfortable situations and I can be in them long enough to do the work that's required to turn them into what we want them to be, or to walk away without having done that and be okay. So I think it was like 30 minutes of, yes, I like this. This is gonna help further me. You know, this is gonna help me get to where I need to go. Just that little bit of message was pretty powerful.
So impactful, the idea of relaxing in the pain, relaxing in the uncomfortableness, because everyone talks about when you're ready to grow that you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? You have to be comfortable with people challenging you. You have to be comfortable with not knowing something, with being a beginner, right? Starting something for the first time and not knowing, being okay with the learning curve. All of those things, oftentimes we're not even aware. When we're ready to go to the next level, we're not even aware that there are painful deposits or memories stuck somewhere in us that until we get to something that challenges us and brings the trauma or the difficulty to the forefront. Whenever we're growing into something, and that's why it's so important to keep allowing ourselves to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he talks a lot about that too. He talks about how pain can be trapped inside the body. And I know that to be true as well. It can be trapped and into energy pockets in the body, and it can be stored in our nervous system.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times what happens is we busy ourselves so that we don't feel it, and activities with the constant movement of things, and then it numbs it out. It doesn't go away, it just numbs it. So it's almost like our busyness and our activities are kind of like an aspirin, you know, or some type of pharmaceutical medication that disrupts the message to the brain that you are in pain, but it doesn't stop the body from feeling it. And so you can go, if after a while it becomes chronic, right? The emotions, the stored and unprocessed, unexpressed emotions starts to create chronic conditions within us, whether it be personality disorders, whether it become depression, anxiety, you know, issues within our relationships, you know, all of these things can become, these are examples of when something, a feeling or an emotion is not expressed or not addressed for so long that it starts to show up in our physical world, even in our physical body, and then even also in our external relationships, connections, our finances, all of that. Our ability to communicate and express, it starts to become chronic and we can't. All of that. So, you know, I've actually had a few opportunities to sit with some painful things and relax into them, you know, like, for example, I was overcharged for something, or I had ordered some roller skates and I saw them on Instagram. They were bling blinging and I was like, oh, these are cute. With a company called Altered Skate, right? I'm putting y'all out there. Yeah. I don't know if you want to double check whether you want to order from them or not, but I ordered the skates, right? And then all of a sudden I got another charge on my card. Now I still haven't received the skates. And I got another charge on my card for the same amount that I had already paid. Talk about livid. But I know that this is a pattern within me. When people take something that belongs to me, right, without permission, and I explored this thing and the depth of this thing on a psychological and emotional level, what this means for me. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that.
Yes.
So, yeah. So I contacted the company, right? I called up Apple and I'm like, what's up? Why is this on my charge again? But it hadn't completed processing. So it was just showing as pending. So there really was nothing that they could do about it. That's another trigger for me, because now I'm like, okay, now y'all not addressing my concern, you know, all of these. So I'm feeling like I'm being neglected or abandonment, all of that stuff, you know, begins to come up. And I'm like, so when it happened this time, I was like, I'm not doing this to myself. I don't want to drag myself into getting so worked up and in a tizzy about this, something that I can't about. So I did reach out to Apple. I spent too much time talking to several different representatives and they kept getting cut off, all that kind of stuff that goes along with it. So that frustrates me also. Got a message from Instagram saying, oh, they're refunding your order. I'm like, I don't want a refund. Send me my skates. So contacted them. They said that, oh, it's a refund. It's not a charge, right? That's what they were saying. long story short, that it was showing up as a charge, but it's not a charge. It's actually a refund. So I'm tallying up all of my expenses on that card for the month. And I'm looking and I'm like, it don't seem like they refunded it. It looks like the same amount that my balance is the same. There's no reflection of it. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I saw how I was getting myself worked up. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'm going to make peace with this, because this is something that I deal with often, and I allow it to consume me when I should not. You know, it's going to, you know, it can become a distraction, lose focus. Yep. When the situation happened, I was at work, and so I needed to focus on work. But my main point with this that ties into today's theme is I was not okay, and it was okay that I was not okay, because I am always being so hard on myself whenever I'm upset. And we talked about this last week, right? I just, for some reason, if I get upset, I know what it is. It, you know, it stems from childhood and all of that kind of stuff of, you know, not being able to express emotions that weren't happy and jolly and everything's good. Those type of emotions weren't received well. You know, they weren't processed well. It was kind of like, get over that, get back to a happy place. And I even saw another young lady, she posted something on Facebook saying, you know, she's just tired of this culture that we're in. Go ahead and love yourself. Everybody, just love yourself. Just love yourself. And she's like, well, I don't feel like I'm loving myself today. And and now you're judging me because I don't feel like loving myself today. Yeah. And so I understood what she was saying. Like, we have this culture sometimes now really of be positive, and misunderstanding what it means to be positive. It doesn't mean that you never have anger. It doesn't mean that you're never frustrated. It just means that you process it in a healthier way. And then once you you allow yourself to feel everything that you're feeling, and that's okay. And I feel like that's what Joseph Goldstein's message is in the pain and the present moment. I feel like he's saying you need to give yourself permission to feel the pain. That's the only way that you're going to be able to stay consistently working on something, because there's going to always be a point of pain on the journey when you are transitioning, when you're transforming, when change is happening. There's going to be moments of uncomfortableness. But if you can make it past the uncomfortable moments, you will get to the other side of it. And then you will see the benefits of you pushing past those little patches of time, those dark moments. You've got to push past them. What generally happens? We don't. We look for something to distract ourselves. Right when we're about to have a breakthrough, we go for a candy bar, or we go for watch something on TV, or let's go shopping, you know, do something. Let's busy ourselves. When you're sitting in meditation, the moment that you're about to, you know, really feel that thing, you give in to a thought because now you're uncomfortable sitting. Don't do it. Don't do it.
One of the things that he said, and it wasn't his original thought, he gave credit to someone else, was that, and I'm paraphrasing, letting go means letting things be. So letting go happens by letting it be. And that was so powerful to me. And I just kept playing with it in my head. Let it go. Like, let it go ahead and be what it's going to be. That's how it was playing for me. And I just kept spinning that around. Like, yeah, let it go. Let it happen. Let it be what it is. Stay present. And that's the hard part. The trying to get somewhere that you're not yet, to a time and a place that doesn't even exist yet because you're uncomfortable with what's happening now. But if you let it be, then you'll be able to let it go. And that just, I mean, I thought about everything that I was not letting be. And then I released that whole let it go thing, because the let it go that we're accustomed to listening to is very similar to what you're talking about, where people are like obsessed with the love yourself and be positive. And I'm like, bro, two negatives make a positive and a negative make a negative. We gotta listen. It's all this stuff. It's not as cut and dry as just being positive. That's my blood type, by the way. I probably shouldn't be saying this live. Somebody try to come kill me.
Don't kill her, because I'm gonna come for you
all the time. But it's the whole let it go. Like, it is not that simple. It's not so simple. If somebody does something to you or something happens to you, you can't just let it go. Even if it's 20 years old, there's a process to all of this. And if we spend our entire lives running away from the pain, letting it go the way it's being fed to us, it's not going to happen. Let it be. Let's let it be what it is. Something came up on you. You really ain't got no control over it. You kind of got to be in it right now, instead of doing that thing that you said. You know, when you said that about taking an aspirin for pain, it doesn't remove the pain. It just removes the you don't feel it for the moment, but your body
it removes the awareness.
Yeah, that reminded me of when I first ever took an antidepressant, and it was Prozac. It did not remove the depression, the fear, and anxiety. It just removed my ability to emote. So it was still in there. I just couldn't get it out. And it was causing another problem, because I was like, what do I do with myself? I was walking around and being and doing and being present for people, but I was not okay. I was like, there's a whole war going on inside me, and I can't talk about it. I can't cry. I don't. This thing is like, no, this is not working. And that's what happens when we self-medicate. It doesn't fix the problem. It hides it and stores it in your body, and you get to mentally maybe check out from it for a moment. But
I was going to say that it takes your mind off of it for the moment.
Yeah, but you're coming back to it.
You are coming back to it. And see, the longer it takes for you to process it, that's how we stay stuck in patterns, because we're going to keep coming back to it until we process it, until we heal it. We do our self-healing, you know? And so sometimes we have to recognize in which ways we heal. Right? What methods we heal. Sometimes crying is so healing. Like, there was a period of my life where I could just cry at the drop of a dime. I would just be crying all of a sudden. I didn't know why. Why am I just crying randomly? You know, nothing really is going on, just crying. And I realized that my soul was dealing with stuff that I wasn't allowing myself to be aware of. And so it was just starting to pour out. Now it's not as easy for me to cry. You know, I really have to but I do still cry, but I allow the tears. And when they come, I just let it flow, because that for me is healing. That's cleansing. And usually when I'm done with the crying, I do actually feel better. You know, so what I've done is what you have to always do too is pay attention to your pattern, right? Because there is a pattern there. And once you pay attention to your pattern and then you respond in a healthy way, each time that part of the pattern resurfaces, you respond in that way, then it will become a new pattern, right? You create a new way of responding, you know? And so instead of being angry with myself, though this is my current work, instead of being angry with myself when I have a grievance or when I'm, upset or when I'm angry, right? Because I'm angry with myself for being angry. Instead of that, I just sit and I, like you said, that Joseph said, I do let it be. I allow myself to have those feelings. I embrace myself. I hug myself. I love on myself. And a lot of times, I have to take a nap so that I can shut my mind off from beating myself up, So I'll go and I'll take a nap. I might drink some tea. I might drink some water. I might say a prayer. I might do a mantra. But whatever, I might take a bath. Sometimes that helps. But usually I engage in some activity that's going to help calm my nervous system in the moment, so that I can be present with what I'm feeling. I just really don't try to run from it anymore, but I make sure that I'm with myself, that I don't bring in any other people other than Kuyani. I will bring her in. And that's my other self-healing, because she is my self-healing coach as well. And so I will bring her in, and she'll give me some soothing compassion. She always does that, and then it kind of sparks the compassion within myself, and then I start showing myself some grace, feeding off of what you're giving me. But point being is that you really have to allow those feelings and emotions to process so that you can move on, because it's not going to go away. And even still, once you process stuff, that doesn't mean that, you're done with it.
Right.
It doesn't mean you just have a new way of responding to it, a way that helps you to use what you're experiencing for your greater good, right? Because one of our other favorite authors is Matt Kahn, and how he talks about, and you'll be hearing a lot about him too. He's a part of our coaching practice, like what we do, not, and he always, one of his books is, yes, everything is here to help you. Yeah, everything is. And then his other book is Whatever Arises, Love That. I love that book too. But for me, that title is better read. And I said this to you, Q. It's love on it. Like love, whatever arises, love on it. Right. It doesn't mean that I'm going to love. I don't love the pain. I don't love the anger, but I'm going to show it love. So, but go ahead.
Bell Hooks. Yes, Bell Hooks has a book called
Bell Hooks.
All About Love.
Oh, you would.
I did not read it. She's a poet that recently passed away. Joy read it. My daughter Joy read it, and she was talking to me, and she read some of a passage to me last night, and she was talking about, one of the lines was, "Love is an act of will," and while my children were growing, I've always said, and I still have to say it sometimes to at least one of them, that love is an action word. Stop telling me that you love me and then doing things that are the opposite of it. But what she was talking about, love is an act of will, is that it's something that you choose, and it's something that you act out. So saying love on it is perfect, because whatever it is, more than likely, it's not something that you love. A lot of the things that come up, that arise, don't feel good. They're uncomfortable. They're painful. But everything that we encounter in this life has something to do with love, whether it's seeking love, or whether it's trying to give love, or trying to usher us into a place of being loving. Everything is about love. And so if something comes up that challenges you, or makes you uncomfortable, or gives you actual pain, learning to receive it in love and love upon it to, and I'm not finding the words I want to say right now, but so that you can think about it differently, so that it becomes what you need, so that it becomes something that actually helps you. So that, to me, because I'm stuck on the whatever arises, love that, and I get it, and I feel that, and I understand it, but adding the on in there turns it into love for me, makes it. So when I think about, what we talked about earlier, some of these situations that I've encountered in the past 2 weeks that have made me extremely uncomfortable, where my initial go-to, real talk, is like, I'm not loving nothing and nobody. I'm out. Like, I'm tired of
overextending myself.
Right. I don't want to give myself. I don't want to be gracious. I don't want to be understanding. I'm not loving on this. but I can't stay there because it's not in my nature, nor is it part of what I desire to be. I desire to be whole. And if I desire to be whole, then I should allow all my experiences to completion. And part of that is learning to be comfortable in the discomfort and learning to love what I encounter and loving on what I encounter. And I think that's just saying it like that, love on that. Just, I mean, it makes it very Black, but it also just makes it feel love on whatever rises, love on that, baby. Just
just love on it.
And when I think about
put some love on that thing.
Okay. When I think about how, when my response to people who came at me was returning my responses in love, how it quenched whatever fires were raging in them, because they didn't have a place to burn anymore, because I wasn't adding fuel to the fire. I was pouring out water. And so I've seen evidence of that. So allowing yourself to give love in a space of discomfort can actually be comforting for you because it changes your mind.
Let me tell you what. Go ahead. Sorry. No, go. Keep going. Sorry. No. It changes how what?
How you feel. That's what I was going to say.
For sure. It also changes how you see what you're experiencing.
That part.
Because a lot of times we see everything as an attack on us, right? We're always told, God is testing you. And you know what I'm saying? I always say the universe spirit is strengthening me. And that's what's helped me to move past the being tested. It's because the test means it's like I'm on trial.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But strengthening you and also showing you the strength that you already have. So when I had talked to my therapist last week, Monday, told her everything's wonderful and I'm so happy and everything's going awesome and all these good things. And hung up with her and pow! The whole universe exploded. And it's like, yes, Kuyani, everything is still wonderful. Everything in your life is still great. Everything in your life is still powerful. Right now you got some discomfort, but that does not change anything that you said.
Right. It's
so
not.
Let me show you how you can still rock in this discomfort and still believe in the life that you just spoke so well of, in spite of and because of this pain.
Absolutely. And he talked about it. Joseph Goldstein, he talks about it too. He was saying that people eventually they started once you make peace with the pain, people were like looking for the pain in their lives. They were missing it. Because the pain, he said, once you mature in your spiritual journey, the pain helped them to become more present in the moment. And it's kind of like it becomes a catalyst for getting clear in your life, for helping you to make difficult decisions. Sometimes the pain does that. Sometimes the pain just makes you give more attention. If it's a physical pain, then it allows you to give more attention to an area. If it's a relationship, conflict or grievance, it allows you to bring more attention to something area in the relationship that may be not being addressed. But for me, what happened, and I told you I was going to get back to it, when I sat with that thing and I let it be, right? I just sat with it and I just breathed through it. And normally, like I would say, as soon as I get home, first thing I get home, I'm calling them up. As soon as I get the free moment, I'm calling them because they told me to call them because we were doing a lot of texting. I was like, call them right away. But my energy about it was very, I was going to give them all of my abandonment issues, stuff they had nothing to do with them. It was just a simple extra charge on your account, but you taking it all the way back to when you was 3 years old and they took your lollipop. You know what I'm saying? So, but what actually began to happen when I let it be, I sat with it. I even sat with the feelings. I felt where I was feeling it at, the pain. I felt the tension in my hands, how my hands was locking up, in my back, how I was sitting. I started paying attention to my physical self, right? So I usually always tell people to always bring your attention back to your breath, because that will help to center you. That will help you to be here now. That will help you to feel. But a lot of times what happens is we get flooded. When we open that door and say, okay, I'm going to feel everything, then it's almost like every feeling that you ever suppressed wants to come up to the surface. And you can't deal with all of them at one time. It's like everything. It's just like a flood. So what happened, I actually was able to trace it back to why I get so upset, because that's always my thing is I want to know, why am I responding in this way? Why does it take over me to that degree? Because when I tell you somebody mess with my money like this, with the whole thing, I paid attention to what the belief in my head was. The belief was that my issues and my concerns were not going to be addressed. They were going to be brushed under the rug. There's this big corporation. They're not caring or concerned about little old April over here. This was all of the stuff that was underneath the emotions that were coming up for me every time something like this, similar to this, happens. So it was a gift in that moment, because I am more mindful and conscious, right, of it, or like people say, woke, right? I was able to observe. I got myself in observation mode. And I was just like having kind of like a dialogue with what's going on? What are you feeling? And just asking high mileage introspective questions to myself, and then just allowing myself to bring the awareness to it. It's not like talking to yourself. People say you talk to yourself, you're crazy. That's not what it is. What happens is, right, it is how you're not crazy. But it's what happens is a knowing, certain ideas will come over you, and thoughts will come over you. And so then you kind of develop some resolve just by asking yourself questions. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? What is it about this particular situation that has me so upset? Some of the times, a lot of it is that I don't feel it's warranted. Like, I don't feel like I have the right to be upset, and I'm supposed to always be, acquiesce to everything that everybody does all the time. And that has a lot to do with some real serious trauma that I definitely experienced growing up, but it's showing up in different areas of my life. The key to it all was the pain, like he said in the podcast. Definitely make sure you listen to it. The pain did help me to heal. Even like the other example that I gave with the woman last time, and Kuyani was saying, this is a healing moment. It is, but we have to choose to allow it to be. It could be a healing moment, or it could also be a situation where you dig yourself deeper into despair. You do get to choose. I could have chosen to do a lot of different things. I could have but my go-to method, that's always, and I got this from, teacher. Why can't I think of his name right now? Oh my gosh, please forgive me.
The one that just passed?
Hi, yes.
Yes. Jeez, I can't pronounce his name.
Thich Nhat Hanh. Thank you.
There you go.
Thich Nhat Hanh. He always says, if you don't know what to do, the first thing that you always got to do is be still. And that sometimes is the most difficult thing to do, because we want to, the energy, because first off, because our nervous system is just moving. So difficult to be still. But there are different levels of stillness, and it doesn't have to mean just stark being still, sitting on the floor. It could just be, as I've shared before, it could be dialing back some of your activity. So if you were doing multiple things, it could get to take it down to just doing the one thing. If you were, listening to music while talking on the phone, while doing all, take it back to just do the one thing. And then eventually you'll be able to get to doing absolutely nothing. And so allow the pain to bless you. Allow it to bless you.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I chose to do this week, which goes to show that when you practice creating the habit of wellness, as you coined,
Yes.
and self-healing and self-care, that it's at some point it becomes second nature, that even when you get away from it and you find yourself frazzled and confused and not knowing what to do, something kicks in and says, just be still.
You're
And
creating a new pattern. You're creating a new
right.
pattern.
That's right. And you start asking yourself the types of questions you need to ask to get yourself to a place of peace inside. Whether the pain goes away, whether the situation changes, this calms down because you've been practicing getting yourself to a place where you can manage being in the place that you're in. And that was one of the things that happened for me this week, because what you said about when you decide to allow the feelings, it seems like all the feelings come up. That happens. I'm telling you, these past 2 weeks have been like, really, what's good? Like, why is everything happening right now? You touching everything. I spent the week at my ex-husband's house with my daughter. He was away, so I stayed with my child. I don't know what to call her, with my youngest child, my youngest non-binary child. Get it right. So I spent the week there with them. And that's where all these weird things happen to me. And I normally would have slept on the sofa, but I was like, I have to work. And I just drove 5 hours. I'm not finna sleep on a sofa because that makes me uncomfortable. That's what I did the last time I was there. I slept on the sofa and, body was in all kinds of pain. So I slept in his bedroom and he had cleaned off the sheets and all of that, whatever, the bed was bare. And I brought my own stuff. I brought my own towels, my own blankets or whatever. I didn't know that I was going to sleep in the bed, but I brought all those things with me anyway. So I was able to at least sleep on my things. So I didn't feel any discomfort at all. And for me, that was a sign of growth, because I knew that I still had some concern, some thoughts about who he is as a person, that, some unhealed places. But this time when I went back, that wasn't a factor. Me sleeping in that room and sleeping in that bed wasn't a factor. It wasn't our marriage bed or anything like that. Those are miles apart. But it was me being okay with resting in that room, which I did the entire time. His mama's ashes are in the corner, in a little urn, pretty little urn in the corner. Didn't faze me at all. Like, none of this stuff, because people are like, oh, you sleeping in the room with his dead mother's ashes, and I'm like, like none of that affected me. But then when the end of the week came, and I finally had a moment where I didn't really have to do anything, and I had permission or space to think and feel, then there were these other feelings that came about from within my marriage when I was married, and the interaction between my ex-husband and my daughter, who was from a previous relationship, and it was not good. And I won't say the interaction wasn't good. I would say his actions towards her were not good. And I thought about how I had to be on his side most of the time, because that was the type of relationship we had. It was a very controlling relationship. What he said goes. And then it was like, but this is my kid. And like, how do I manage this? And I usually managed it by letting him do whatever he wanted. And she never held that against me, but the not feeling the power to speak up in those situations was very connected to what had happened to me in the present that week. So those things sort of pushed into that, and all that stuff came up. And
reminders, right? Enough, yeah.
Right. And so I was like, so I knew that it was a healing moment, but I had difficulty getting past my fault in it, what I, considered to be my fault in it. And so it was a moment of self-forgiveness that I didn't identify right away, because I was having a hard time not thinking about my daughter as a little girl, feeling some sort of abandonment or helplessness because I couldn't help her. In the moment, I feel like I was almost feeling like she may have felt. And did not get to the part about self-forgiveness until like a few days later. It's like, this is not here. This didn't come up to torture you. This didn't come up to sadden you. It was a necessary pain so that to teach you self-forgiveness. These are things that are buried, that you never dealt with, that you're getting the opportunity now to heal. Yes, in the midst of pain that you've already got going on, because they're all connected. Somehow you're doing the same thing that you said, not allowing yourself to be upset, telling yourself it's not okay that you're upset. Also, and even just with I know that the person who did this to me didn't do it. It wasn't personal. That is good, a good acknowledgement, but it does not excuse you or make it not okay for you to be uncomfortable or be sad about what happened. It still hurts you, regardless of whether or not they wanted to hurt you, whether it was personal or not. It still hurts you, and that's okay, and you're allowed to feel that. So,
amen.
Give yourself that space.
Give yourself that space.
Right. And so all of those things that were happening, they were different things, and they were calling for different things. The first thing was calling for me to allow myself to be upset. The second thing was calling for me to forgive myself. And the third thing was calling for me to create a boundary that says, you know what? You have a voice too. And if your voice is not welcome here, you have a right to walk away. And so all of those things, all the realization came from allowing myself to commune with the pain. And I say commune with because
I love that. I love that.
You are having a meeting. You sitting down, you're having breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or all three with this feeling, so that y'all can have a meeting of the minds, or however you want to say it, so that y'all can part ways in peace.
Absolutely.
And can't part ways, still have peace.
Still have peace. Oh, I love that. And that brings us to next week's episode. We're going to be talking about the effects of guilt and being able to forgive yourself and show yourself some compassion. So yes, definitely stay tuned. This was another great episode of the Q&A Exchange. I do want to tell you, I'm so excited. I got my package from Yahila today for my CMOS. I was going to share it with you guys. So I just got it today. She shipped it on through. And so here's one. I have the
favorite one. I love the red one.
Yeah, I have the red one, and then she also sent me another one. Oh, look, and I got
the white. Yeah. Yeah, I always get my little saves that I just.
Yeah. So I'm excited about these. So check out One Peaceful Yogi for all your CMOS needs. She's got them in capsule form. She has them in already gelled out form. You can also get them dry as well. One Peaceful Yogi on Instagram, the number one, right? And so you'll see also. So thanks again, Q. I love doing this thing with you as always. Stay well, everyone. Peace.
Hey there, so how y'all doing? One of the biggest challenges that we face is self-expression in this world. You know, there are so many different expectations about how we should show up, what's right, what's wrong. Right now in the media, you're hearing a lot about about the freedom of speech. You know, many different things are happening because people are saying things that on public platforms that people don't like. Right? And it's offensive sometimes to different groups. But when you say that someone is free to express themselves, then you kind of really can't police that. You can't try to put that in any parameter, in any box. So I really feel like a lot of the pain that we experience is as a result of of repression, right? Someone not acknowledging us, someone not seeing us, and someone not hearing us because what we want to say may make them uncomfortable. So with all of that said, the next artist that you're going to hear is Balmain, and he actually is my son. And at first I want to tell you that I really wasn't jacking, as he would say, his music, some of the things that he was saying. But then I had to listen to it from an artistic perspective. And I was like, wow, his play on words is really interesting. How he uses the words and just some of the things that he says. And in particular, this song, he said he uses the word window pane to describe, and I want you to listen out for it and see how he artistically uses that. But when I moved past some of the other stuff, like the N word is in there. So for those of the the younger users out there or listeners out there, your parents, you may not want them to hear. There is definitely some vulgar language in there. But from an artistic perspective, I had to respect it. Art is supposed to be about you. It is not supposed to be about how people are going to receive it. And I struggled with that for a long time with several different artists personally. And I finally arrived at this point that I'm at because I started to understand the importance of art and the role that it plays in our culture, the role that it plays in terms of being able to express and to communicate. It is a form of communication. And so periodically you will hear my son's music on our podcast, and he was a little concerned. He was like, "Ma, I don't know, they ain't ready for my music," because he knows how judgmental I have been in the past. But I honestly can't ask for authenticity and not allow people to be authentic. I can't bleep stuff. I can't, that's not what podcasting is about. So all I can do is share with you a disclaimer up front to let you know this ain't for everybody, and that's okay. But if you're ready to hear a word from an artist's perspective about pain and then just how he navigated pain, then stick around and stay tuned. Oh, and one more thing. Please understand that I am not saying that our ability to express ourselves should be at a point where we're harming someone else, physically, mentally, and spiritually. While some of these words, because words are very powerful, may disturb some of you, right? We're not forcing them on you. And that's why I chose to come on and talk to you about them. Because I understand and I respect everyone's right to choose. You have a right to choose what you listen to, what comes into your being. And so when I talk about self-expression, I mean, as long as you are not physically, emotionally, or spiritually harming yourself or someone else, then you have a right to express how you feel. And I feel like you expressing how you feel is more important than how I'm going to feel about what you say, unless you're forcing it on me, unless you're using it as a form of torture for me. So while I get there may be some strong opinions, I just want to reiterate that because, again, this is something that you will be encountering sometimes on our channel because I want to be authentic. I want us to be able to be authentic. And one of the things that I know also is that we're all at different places on our journey. And we have to allow for the flow of life. We have to allow the youth to be where they are so that they can get where they're going. So much of what we've done by forcing people to conform has created a lot of the anger and some of the other emotions that we don't necessarily agree with. Some of them that are harmful, rather, I should say, right? And so I really feel like when you give someone a space to express themselves, then you start the healing process, whatever that looks like for them. So here's to you being able to choose whether or not you continue moving forward. And here's to my son, who I'm very proud of with the way that he is expressing himself. And I really want to encourage all of you artists out there, even if nobody's listening, just write, get it out on paper, because getting it out on paper is a lot better than what can happen if you hold it inside of you. A lot of people are taking their truths with them, and a lot of people are, committing suicide or self-harming themselves as a result of not being able to express themselves. It's a real thing. And I just want to be a part of helping to set as many people free as possible.
A lot of niggas act like they don't go through pain. Real niggas feel pain too. It's just how you go about expressing your pain. That's what make you a bitch or not. Been through so damn much, we gon' make it there, I promise. For me, they ain't show us no love, we gon' make it there, I promise. For Leo, now they know what's up, we gon' make it there, I promise. Talk to him, Urban. And don't call it luck, we gon' make it there, I promise. I know why they call it window pane, cause I see pain every time I look. I took all that pain and I wrote this hook. Shit ain't been the same in my own damn hood. I know why they call it window pane, cause I see pain every time I look. I took all that pain and I wrote this hook. Put that on blood like my first name Shook. My first baby mom is for the streets. My second BM, she only loved me. Sick and tired of saying R.I.P. Even though we slide, they caught the feed. I know you don't bleed how I bleed, shit. I know you ain't seen what I see. Keep it on me even in the beat. I ain't letting no one slide on me. I ain't tryna go to DOA or KOD. I know back home I got a lot of mouths to feed. When I wrote this song for them, not me. I feel like I'm baby, I'm just tryna take the lead. Nothing you could say that's gon' make me change my mind. Buying all my niggas chains and I say this all the time. Drop tops in the rain, we the ones that make it shine. When they looking through the pain, they gon' see us on our grind. I know why they call it window pane, cause I see pain every time I look. I took all that pain and I wrote this hook. Shit ain't been the same in my own damn hood. I know why they call it window pane, cause I see pain every time I look. I took all that pain and I wrote this hook. Put that on blood like my first name Shook. If you can't stand the pain, can't take you out the hood if it planned to rain. That just tell me and you, we ain't the same. Beefing with me, it's gon' be a dangerous game. Niggas play the block all day and night. If they rate the spot, keep your shit tight. Beefing with the ops is kill on sight. When I at the top, we'll be alright. When I at the top, we'll be okay. This ain't next box, no, we don't play. I've been stacking chips like Frito-Lay. They just free the op, tell them free the game. I get so much love in the hood I'm from, so there's no more pain is when I'm done. Never leave a building without my gun. I won't let another nigga stop my run. Been through so damn much, we gon' make it there, I promise. They ain't show us no love, we gon' make it there, I promise. Now they know what's up, we gon' make it there, I promise. And don't call it luck, we gon' make it there, I promise.